How did the rigid procedures of British soldiers contrast with the more unpredictable style of American GIs in World War II? There is a famous, likely apocryphal, observation attributed to a German general regarding his opponents in World War II. When the British attack, they attack on schedule. When the French attack, they are late. When the Americans attack, not even the Americans know when they are attacking. While exaggerated for comedic effect, this statement captures a very real doctrinal friction between the two allies. The British fought with the caution of a nation that had been bleeding since 1939, the Americans fought with the reckless ingenuity of a nation drowning in industrial surplus. The British set peace. By 1944, the British Army was highly professional, deeply weary, and facing a critical manpower shortage. They could not afford to trade lives for ground. Consequently, British commanders like Field Marshal Montgomery favored the set-piece battle. These were meticulously planned operations. Artillery barrages were calculated to the second, logistics were mapped out in advance, and infantry advanced behind, creeping barrages, of explosive fire. The British soldier relied on discipline, tradition, and following the plan to the letter. It was a method designed to minimize chaos and protect soldiers, but it often lacked flexibility. If the Germans did something unexpected, the British plan could grind to a halt while officers waited for new orders. The American field hack. The American GI, by contrast, was culturally allergic to rigid hierarchy. American doctrine existed, but American soldiers frequently ignored it if they found a faster way to get the job done. The best example of this contrast occurred in the hedgerows bocage of Normandy. The ancient, thick hedges trapped tanks and provided perfect cover for German anti-tank weapons. The British approach was generally to rely on established tactics, infantry clearing the way slowly, calling in heavy artillery, and methodical advancement. The Americans looked at the problem mechanically. A sergeant named Curtis Cullen realized that the standard procedure was failing. He didn't wait for a new manual from the Pentagon. Instead, he and his mechanics scavenged steel, hedgehogs, German beach defenses, cut them up with blowtorches, and welded sharp prongs onto the front of Sherman tanks. These Rhino tanks could slice through the hedges rather than climbing over them, exposing their weak underbellies. This was not standard procedure, it was a makeshift industrial solution created by soldiers on the ground. Standardization versus firepower. Ultimately, the British fought to conserve manpower, while the Americans fought to expend ammunition. The British soldier was trained to be a cog in a well-oiled machine, relying on regimental pride and order to survive. The American soldier was trained, culturally, if not officially, to view war as a job that needed to be finished so he could go home. If that meant calling in a devastating artillery strike on a single sniper or welding scrap metal to a tank, the American GI would do it, regardless of what the rulebook said. To the Germans, the British were predictable but relentless, the Americans were chaotic, amateurish, and terrifyingly overwhelmed with firepower.